Okay, class. This one I actually only had a couple students ask, but maybe we forgot about it. Let's talk about unit rates. Now, unit rates has to do with ratios. For example, let's say I go to the store and I buy 5 pounds of coffee. Okay. Now, how much did I pay for that coffee? Well, you know what? I paid $4. So for these 5 pounds, I paid $4. Now what I want to know is, how much did I pay for 1 pound? Sorry about that, that's my phone. 1 pound, how much did I pay? Now I know we've seen this before. We can cross multiply like this and like this. So we end up with 5x, which is 5 times the unknown amount, is equal to $4. Then we divide by 5 to get the x by itself, and then we divide by 5 here. So we end up with x equals $4 divided by 5. Okay, that would look like this. Okay, can I go into 4? Zip to 40, 8 times. That's 40. Get 0, drop the 0. So what I get is 80 cents. So I pay 80 cents, for every 1 pound. I'll use LB. And this makes sense because I bought 5 pounds to start with. What is 5 times 80? That's $4 again. Now, I know let me come back over here. I know I used this example right here. The way I set it up was 5 pounds to $4 equals 1 pound, and I don't know how much. But let's really look at what a unit rate is. I bought, let's say they broke it up into 5 little boxes. I bought 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pounds, 4 pounds. There's my 5th pound of coffee. I'll put a little C for coffee. Okay. Now, in the end, I paid $4, let's say, for all 5 of these together. All this together is how much? $4. So 5 pounds for $4. Now, what a unit rate is asking is, how much is it for, let me erase this real quick, how much do I have to pay for just one of these pounds? Okay. So this is 1 pound, my 2nd, my 3rd, my 4th, and my 5th pound. So how much is 1 pound? So let's say 1 pound is 80 cents, like I mentioned earlier. So if I buy a second one, that's $1.60, $2.40, $3.20 for my 4th one, and then finally my 5th pound together is $4. So when we're doing unit rate, when we're doing a problem that has to do with unit rate, we want to figure out the ratio of, say, pounds of coffee to how much we paid for it. But look here again. What I'm asking for is, how much did I pay for 1 pound? So we need to understand, what are they asking for? One question that we've seen before is, let's say, Mr. Huerta can type 90 words per minute, WPM, words per minute. Okay? Well, what does that mean? That means he can type 90 words per 1 minute. What if I tell you that my brother can type 280 words in 4 minutes? Who is faster? Now, you saw that I can type 90 words for 1 minute. It's pretty fast. But here, we don't know how much for 1 minute. We just know that in 4 minutes, he can type 280. So we need to find the unit rate. We need to figure out how much does he type in 1 minute. I don't know how much this is. Now, of course we can go to this and say, okay, let's cross multiply, let's do our shortcut. This would be 4x equals 280, and then we divide by 4. For some people that's a lot easier. But again, I can look and say, okay, well, what's my relationship between these two numbers, 4 and 1? Well, if I divide 4 by 4, I get 1. So it makes sense to say, well, then I have to do the same thing on top, to my top quantity. So what's 280 divided by 4? I can just do this. For some people, they see it like this. Can 4 go into 2? No. Can it go into 28? Yep, 7. B. So he can type 70 words per minute. Or, right here, divide by 4, and you get the same thing. It just depends what works for you. How do you see it? And someone might see it totally different than that. Okay? Now, I know there's some problems where you're given, say, how much per inch, and then we have to do conversions. But for right now, we're not talking about that. Right now, what we want to talk about is this right here. What is the unit rate? Right here, it's 70 words per minute. Okay? Right here, 90 words per minute. There's another unit rate because how much per 1 unit? Okay? Now, one other question I just remembered. Let's say you have this question. I tell you, Mike can cut 3 yards in half an hour. 0.5. How much can he cut in 1 hour? So, this is again tricky. What is really what we're looking for? Well, if we cross multiply, we get 3 equals 0.5x. Divide by 0.5 by 0.5. Now we have to be sure what we're doing here. Now, what makes it a little tricky is I wrote it as a decimal. Now we've seen it written like this before. He can do it in half an hour. So now we have half x equals 3. Divide by a half. That cancels out. I have x equals 3 divided by 1/2. Again, we mentioned reciprocal. So we have 3 over 1 times 2 over 1. X would equal 6. But instead of doing all that, take a step back and look at my original question for this one. Mike can cut 3 lawns in 0.5 or in half an hour. Instead of jumping right away to say, well, where do I multiply? Where do I divide? First stop and think. Think critically. Common sense. Think of half an hour. A unit rate is 1. If I say half an hour, I need to know, well, an hour. So what would I have to do half an hour to get an hour? Double it. There's 1 hour. Well, then double this. That means Mike can do 6 lawns in an hour. And that's what we got right here. Except we went through all this work for something that we just had to stop and think. And even if I said it as this, half an hour. Well, what's 1/2 and another half? That's 1. So if I add 2 halves here, then right here it's 6 also. Okay? So when we're talking about unit rates, we have to get to 1 unit. Now that might mean dividing, say over here. Let me get to one of these, okay? Right here, I need to get 4 to 1. 4 minutes to 1 minute. But in some cases, you have less than 1. So we got to get it to 1. We have to get it to 1. And whatever we do down here, say right here we multiply by 2, we have to do the same thing here. And sometimes the problems, we make them too complicated. We overthink it. Right here, just a little bit of thinking and we can come up to a simple solution like that. So, unit rates. If you still have questions, well, we can discuss that during tutoring time. Now, right here, I'm going back. We talked about unit rates. For example, 5 pounds of coffee. We can cross multiply. Just a quick recap. And I can do all this work. Or I can go back and say, okay, well, what am I really looking for? I'm looking for that 1 pound. How much did I pay for that 1 pound? Well, I paid 80 cents. Okay. And I use this example also. I can do cross multiplication here, or I can ask myself, how, by looking across like this, how do I get from 4 to 1? Well, I can divide. I have to do the same thing up here. And there you go. Okay. So if you have other questions, class, please leave them in the comments, and I'll try to answer them in the comments, or again, I can do a video response. Thank you, class.